Folks, welcome into another edition of SportsBookReview.com's Roundtable. Major League Baseball is supposed to get underway tomorrow, but obviously that's not going to take place. There's still a lot to cover as we prep and get you ready for Major League Baseball season when it actually starts. We're digging deep into the bullpen today. We got Teddy Savransky and also Gary Seegers joining us. Teddy, I'm going to start with you first. I was really waiting for this to happen. Major League Baseball opening day. Let's get this summer month underway, and poof, we might not even have it for at least another 30 or even 60 days, Teddy.
30 days is very optimistic. 60 days is optimistic. I mean, right now, if you're talking about when this season is going to start, my only advice is bet the over. There's a decent chance we could be back in June, at some point in June. But they're talking about needing a month's worth of prep to get going once the restrictions are released. That puts us into July, maybe. And if we're talking about in July, we're not talking about I saw something this morning on Twitter saying that MLB is still working on a 140 to 150 game schedule. I'll take the under on that. I do think we see baseball, but I don't think we see a lot of baseball.
Gary, when we take a look at baseball season ramping up, right? When we see spring training, they need at least 5 to 6 weeks to get ready. Now, they got a couple weeks in, but now seemingly obviously shut down. They're even asking like Scott Boras on some intricacies that they can do during the season. But starting Major League Baseball on opening day is going to be a problem because you have a lot of money invested specifically in a lot of pitchers. We just saw Noah Syndergaard going down. He's going to need Tommy John surgery. This isn't one thing that we can just say, hey, we shut it down. Well, let's ramp it back up. We already had 3 weeks. We only need 2 weeks now. It looks like that's going to be extended. If you were a Major League Baseball team owner or general manager approaching the season, it looks like they're going to need at least another spring training before they even get going, right?
They may not need a full spring training, but yeah, you hear in NBA, in the NFL, et cetera, about game shape. It takes a little while to get up to that point. And it's the same thing with college football once we get into that discussion about when they start summer conditioning, et cetera. These players have to get back into condition. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It's going to be a little while. If you go back and look in 1981, they lost June all the way through August and still got in 107 games, and that was really optimistic. I mean, they shut down the whole season and then came back and did an all-star break, et cetera. You don't have the option of doing an all-star break and kind of working your way back in after you've already been playing. It's going to be a little bit. I think 107 games is optimistic at this point. I think this may be a season where we have less than 100 games.
Yeah, when we took a look at the seasons here, Teddy, that's what I'm going to get into because obviously we're used to that 162 and you ramp up and somebody has to get 20 wins as a pitcher or, 100 RBIs. We use that as benchmarks. Those are going to be different. But we're also talking about this. We're not talking about, 1935 or 1940 where, hey, Teddy, why don't we just have 3 doubleheaders this week? We'll really make up ground. That's not the way these players are taught. Getting in 162, what would be a feasible date? Because I bring up when we talk about Scott Boras, he said, hey, no problem. I want to get all my guys paid. Why don't we go all the way through and have the World Series last till Christmas Day? Is that a possibility, Teddy?
Stranger things have happened. And if you're talking about playing indoors, again, everybody wants their revenue. Okay. Scott Boras doesn't get paid if his players don't get paid. And if they play 2/3 of a season, Scott Boras only gets 2/3 of the money that in theory he negotiated for. So you're damn right. Scott Boras wants 162 games. I want 162 games. You want I'll take 190 games. Give me something to bet on. But realistically, Scott Boras can dream all he wants. Nothing is happening right now. Okay. And nothing's going to happen in the month of April. And Gary, from the projections we're seeing, I don't know how much is going to happen in the month of May. So the earliest we're talking about, if everything goes right, is all right. We'll see if we can get this thing going at some point in June and get players back together, which is maybe July 4th for a restart date. And then you say, all right, can we play into November? Yeah, you probably could. Can you play into December? How far do you want to push it back? Now, the other thing Scott Boras is talking about is doubleheaders. He's like, we can make them play 2-3 doubleheaders a week, no problem. And in theory, the players are saying that, and they're saying we'll increase the roster sizes so we have enough pitching for that. That's the theory. As a bettor, I hate that. All right. As a bettor, you don't like doubleheaders. because it's really hard to make an educated decision on what to do in the second game until you've seen the first game. So there's no advanced thought process of what you're going to do with game 2 of this doubleheader. And you're always like, what's the manager going to do? And there's more information you don't know for doubleheaders prior to the start of the first game than you do for any normal game. So bettors don't love doubleheaders, even though the action guys might. Oh, I can bet twice today instead of once. But if you're actually trying to make money doing this, doubleheaders aren't, I don't bet a lot of doubleheaders. So the concept of let's have a ton of doubleheaders, it's not what I'm looking for in an effort to make money this summer and fall betting baseball.
No, you're exactly right, Teddy, because you're also taking a look at, if you're having all these double headers, that means a really expanded roster. So not only are you missing game checks maybe from early in the season, now you got to pay extra payroll, which we know Major League Baseball owners certainly aren't willing to do. A real quick point on this, Gary, I want to bring you into on this conversation. Money makes the world go round. Now, right now in Major League Baseball, not really any game checks are being missed. Now we're seeing some, packages come up. We're going to pay the minor league baseball players, but that's chump change compared to what some of these superstars are making. If we miss 2 to 3 weeks, do you think that ramps up the process where teams get edgy? We really want to get back out there because, again, money does rule the world, and we haven't missed any gates yet in Major League Baseball that we're going to be missing over the next week to week and a half here.
Well, I mean, we can look to the NBA for that kind of information, right? Some of them are trying to figure out how to cut staff as far as arena operations, et cetera. Nothing's going to fix any of this. These guys have contracts, and yes, it's based on games played in some situations. Otherwise, no, I think we're just going to have to roll with a shorter season, and the guys are still going to get their checks, but the television revenue is going to go through the roof. The advertising sales are going to go through the roof. You're going to have to find a way to make it up somewhere else other than trying to force this thing. Even when they do come back, I don't know that they're going to actually have fans in the stands immediately, right? If we're looking at July 4th, how many people are going to feel like coming out to games at that point? A lot of these regional teams, the local market is where they make the majority of their money, whether it's from television or the fans in the stands, et cetera. If you don't have fans coming out, I mean, that's a big part of the Major League Baseball budget. That's going to be a problem. So I don't have a good answer for you, but that's the way that I see it going. I mean, they're going to have to just take one for the team at this point and hope for the best, really.
Yep, that's the best part about having these roundtable topics. We don't know the exact answers, but we can certainly pontificate and go on and see what we think is right. Teddy, no fans in the stands maybe for a portion of the season. Revenues are dropping, but how about this? One of the things that are near and dear to my heart, back in the 90s, the NBA had a lockout-shortened season, and it was Allen Iverson's first time making the playoffs with the Philadelphia 76ers. The reason I bring that up, it was a sprint to the finish. Some teams that usually weren't at the top of the standings now were able to hold on and hold strong. How many times, Teddy, do we see in Major League Baseball? Boy, that team was a surprise in April and May, and then you have the length of the 162-game schedule where the cream rises to the top. Could we see some bottom feeders make a race and say, hey, all they have to do, Teddy, is get hot for 3 weeks. They could be at the top of the standings here. Talk about the impact of a short season that might help some of these teams that are not used to being at the top of the standings.
Sure. So, I mean, in theory, over 162 games, the best teams are supposed to rise to the top. And year in and year out in MLB, that happens. You have your disappointments, you have your surprises, but of the teams that are supposed to be there, most of them are there in September. So you say, how does this affect your Dodgers and your Yankees and your, the teams at the top of the payroll spectrum versus your Tigers and your Royals or whoever you want to talk about at the lower end of the payroll spectrum? I don't know that I'm looking at the season and saying some team can just get hot and hang around and boom, they're right in the playoff chase like they would be at the All-Star break. And then you know what's going to happen over the second half. Of course, there's going to be some of that, but let's not forget the teams with bigger, deeper pockets now will continue to have deeper pockets in an environment where there's going to be an even greater disparity between the wealthy teams and the struggling teams. And I don't know that bodes well for the Tigers and the Royals and those teams. Somebody could get hot, but the team has to have something to do it. We could, White Sox and the Reds are two teams that have been very popular, at least here in Vegas, in the offseason markets as potential surprises. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those teams do it, but to see a team coming out of absolute nowhere, a bottom feeder team, I wouldn't count on it.
Now, Teddy, the only thing that disappointed me out of your answer right there is the fact that you're talking about, prognosticators in Las Vegas. Not very hot on my Philadelphia Phillies here is a hot bet. We'll get back to those a little bit later down.
Nobody's
but I want
hot
to have
on
a
the
little
Phillies,
bit of fun
Donnie.
with this. Teddy, come on, the Phillies,
it's
right?
Not the
Phillies
Eagles.
should be the
The
hot
Eagles have
topic in
hope.
Vegas.
The Phillies have no hope. You know that.
The eternal optimist over here. If we take a look at Major League Baseball teams, we were ready in the preseason, right? All throughout camp, starting up in spring training. The number one topic was, I can't believe Major League Baseball did not punish the Houston Astros, or at least to us in the public, saying we don't think they got punished enough. You saw they were ramping up. This was only spring training. Everybody was waiting for the Houston Astros to come to town and yell at them. Now, we might not even get any fans to yell at them, but does this take the Houston Astros off the hook? Gary, I'm going to start with you first. We were ready to pound on this team. Are they going to get maybe scapegoated here and say, hey, woo, thank God this came in because now we're not going to take the heat here?
No chance. No chance. Absolutely not. Baseball fans don't forget. There's still people in the stands waving, signs and banners and whatnot about players that use steroids. Like, they don't forget about these things. So it doesn't matter when fans come back. The Astros will be absolutely bombarded with this, and it's not going to end anytime soon. This was not just going to be a one-year thing. This will continue for maybe the next decade because this was a major, major story, and baseball fans take this stuff seriously. So I don't expect them to just get away with it and the fans just forget about it when they come back. As soon as the Astros go to somebody else's ball yard, they're going to get it, and they're going to get it harsh, and it's going to be hilarious for the rest of us.
Teddy, will you be there to yell at the Houston Astros? You're going to fly into Los Angeles, maybe take a trip down to Phoenix or Tempe, Arizona to yell at them at all?
The best way to get your revenge on the Houston Astros is to make money off the Houston Astros, all right? I graduated Michigan, and I owed them my senior year. My financial aid package left me with close to $5,000 in what they described as unmet need. And my senior year, I was hungry. I worked 2 jobs, and I ate beefaroni, and I collected cans, and I was hungry. And I said, I'm going to get my revenge on Michigan for doing, for the financial aid by winning bets on or against the Wolverines. All right? You hate the Astros, that's fine. You can hate them all you want. Make money off that team, and make no mistake about it. All right? Houston's still really freaking good. Okay? They're still every bit as good as they were last year or close to it. They're probably motivated themselves. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Astros are moneymakers, because the betting markets, it's almost like the Trump-Clinton betting market, where the guys who were betting, they couldn't fathom that anyone would vote for Trump. And the market was skewed over what the actual results were and what could have been expected to be, because the people who were involved in that market had preconceived notions. The people involved in the betting, in the baseball betting markets, there's not a lot of love for Houston, not a lot of respect for Houston. There may be 5 or 10 cents extra value every day on the Astros this year. I wouldn't be surprised to make money betting on Houston, but am I going to go over there and boo? No, I don't care. I'm not a fan. I'm a bettor.
I'll tell you who's not going to boo right now. The people watching this Sports Book Review Town Hall, basically with a roundtable. He's Teddy Sabransky. He's Gary Seegers. I'm Donnie Seymour. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be here all the way through till whenever we get opening day, right here on sportsbookreview.com. Thank you for tuning into the roundtable. We'll be back soon.